Financial self-sabotage, why you make money and always lose it. You make money, you put in the effort, you work, you produce results. You watch your account grow, and somehow, weeks later, you're back at the same point as always. It's not coincidence. It's not temporary or mismanagement. It's a pattern. And when a pattern repeats itself, it's no longer an accident, it's financial self-sabotage. Self-sabotage doesn't begin in your wallet, but in your mind. It's that quiet voice that whispers, enjoy it now, who knows about tomorrow, or you'll never have enough anyway. So you spend before planning, buy to compensate for stress, postpone saving because there will be time later. The problem isn't lack of income, it's the difficulty of sustaining it. Often this behavior is rooted in beliefs learned in childhood. If you grew up hearing that money disappears quickly or that wealthy people change for the worse, your brain may be trying to protect your identity. Because if prospering means betraying what you know, you will unconsciously choose to return to what feels familiar, known scarcity. Emotion also plays a role. Money activates euphoria, anxiety, or guilt. And when an emotion is intense, we seek quick regulation. Spending provides immediate gratification that soothes in the moment, even if it later creates pressure. Breaking the cycle requires something deeper than creating a budget. It requires observing your decisions without judgment and asking yourself what internal story you are confirming every time you lose what you earn. Because until you change that narrative, the result will remain the same: money that comes and money that disappears. The guilt of being rich, the moral conflict that slows your economic growth. Now that you understand you don't lose money by accident but through unconscious patterns, let's go one level deeper. Because behind self-sabotage there is often something even more silent and powerful: the guilt of being rich. Yes, guilt. An emotion almost no one admits, yet it influences more than you imagine. We grew up hearing phrases like rich people are selfish, no one gets rich by being a good person, or while others suffer, how could I have so much? Without realizing it, we associated prosperity with injustice. So when we begin to earn more, something internal activates, a moral conflict. Your mind may desire economic growth, but if deep down you believe that having money makes you cold, ambitious, or disconnected from others, you will unconsciously limit your income. You will reject opportunities, charge less than you're worth, or overspend so you don't feel different. It's a subtle way of maintaining coherence with your learned value system. Guilt also appears when you economically surpass those close to you. If your friends or family are struggling, prospering can feel like betrayal. And to avoid the discomfort, you dim your light. You don't stand out too much. You don't grow too much. You don't earn too much. But here is the uncomfortable truth: money doesn't amplify your evil, it amplifies your identity. If you are generous, with more resources you can create greater impact. If you are responsible, you can build more stability. Wealth does not automatically corrupt, it magnifies who you already are. Freeing yourself from guilt means redefining your moral relationship with money. It's not about justifying excessive ambition, but understanding that prospering is not stealing from the world. It is expanding your capacity to contribute. When you reconcile your values with your economic growth, self-sabotage loses strength. And for the first time, you allow yourself to move forward without internal resistance. Scarcity mindset versus expansion mindset, the silent battle in your brain. If you already understand that self-sabotage comes from unconscious patterns and that guilt can slow your growth, now it's time to observe the stage where it all happens, your mindset. Because inside your mind there is a constant battle between scarcity and expansion, and that struggle defines every financial decision you make. A scarcity mindset operates from fear. It makes you think money is limited, opportunities are few, and if someone else wins, you lose. Under this logic, you save from anxiety, invest with fear, or don't even try to grow because the market is difficult. Every expense feels like a threat and every risk like imminent danger. No matter how much you earn, it will never feel like enough. An expansion mindset on the other hand, operates from possibility. It doesn't deny challenges, but understands that value can be created, skills can be developed, and income is not tied to a fixed ceiling. From this perspective, money is not static but dynamic. It multiplies with strategy, education, and conscious action. The most interesting part is that both mindsets can coexist within you. One day you feel capable of generating more, the next, you doubt everything. That oscillation explains why sometimes you move forward and then fall back. It's not inconsistency, it's internal programming competing for control. Changing this dynamic does not mean repeating positive phrases without foundation. It means training your brain to identify when you are deciding from fear and when from vision. True financial freedom does not begin in the bank, but in the way you interpret abundance. And when you consistently choose expansion, your results begin to reflect it. Money and trauma. How past experiences still control your financial decisions. If the battle between scarcity and expansion happens in your mind, there is something even deeper that influences which side wins, your emotional history with money. Because many financial decisions are not made from logic, but from unresolved wounds. Financial trauma does not always come from bankruptcy or a major loss. Sometimes it begins in small scenes, hearing constant arguments about debt at home, feeling ashamed for not having what other children had, experiencing an unexpected layoff, or living through prolonged lack. Those moments leave a silent imprint. The brain learns to associate money with danger, conflict, or insecurity. As you grow, that programming remains active. You may save obsessively out of fear of losing everything, or spend compulsively because deep down you feel money will never be stable. You might even avoid reviewing your finances to avoid reliving past anxiety. It's not lack of discipline, it's automatic emotional protection. The problem is that the brain does not distinguish between past and present when the wound is still open. It reacts as if the threat was still there. Healing this relationship means recognizing which experiences shaped your perception of money. Naming them reduces their power. Because when you understand that many of your decisions are emotional rather than rational, you regain control. And only then can you build a financial relationship based on awareness, not survival. The invisible income ceiling, why you can't break through a certain financial level. If financial trauma programs your emotional reaction to money, the next level of the problem is more subtle, the invisible income ceiling. That exact point you always return to, no matter how much effort you make. You may have extraordinary months, new projects, salary increases, and yet it seems there is a limit you cannot sustainably surpass. That ceiling is not in the market, nor in the economy, nor even in your real abilities, it is in your self-image. We all have an internal financial thermometer, a number our mind considers normal, safe, and coherent with who we believe we are. When you exceed that level, something feels off. Anxiety appears. Fear of losing it. A sense of not deserving it. And without realizing it, you make decisions that bring you back to your familiar zone. Maybe you raise your expenses at the same pace as your income. Maybe you postpone bigger opportunities because they imply greater exposure. You might even sabotage important negotiations by charging less than you're worth. It's not coincidence, it's psychological regulation. The brain seeks stability, not growth. This ceiling often forms in childhood and youth by observing how much your parents earned, what lifestyle was considered the normal, or what comments you heard about people with more money. If no one in your environment surpassed a certain economic level, your mind may interpret going beyond it as dangerous or arrogant. Breaking this limit requires redefining your financial identity. It's not enough to want more income, you must feel comfortable being the person who generates and sustains it. When you raise your internal standard, not from pressure but from conscious expansion, the ceiling begins to move. And what once seemed unreachable becomes your new normal. The myth of money is not important, the socially accepted lie. If the invisible income ceiling is sustained by your self-image, there is a social belief that silently reinforces it: money is not important. It sounds noble, even spiritual. But when examined honestly, it reveals a deep contradiction. After discussing trauma, guilt, and internal limits, this phrase appears as a moral solution. Telling yourself money doesn't matter can relieve the pressure to grow, justify financial mediocrity, or avoid the fear of standing out. It is an elegant way of not confronting your own blocks. Reality is different. Money is not the most important thing in life, but it influences almost all important areas: access to health, education, free time, stability, and the ability to help others. Denying its relevance does not make you more ethical, it makes you less conscious. When you minimize its importance, you also minimize your responsibility to manage and multiply it. Many people repeat this phrase because they grew up seeing conflicts associated with money. To protect themselves emotionally, they conclude it is better to devalue it. The problem is that your mind does not fight for what it considers irrelevant. If you believe money does not matter, you will never develop the skills to manage it strategically. Overcoming this myth means reconciling purpose and prosperity. Money does not define your worth, but it expands your impact. It is not an end in itself, but a tool. And when you understand that ignoring it does not make you more virtuous, but more limited, you begin to treat it with the seriousness it deserves. Growth then stops being a moral contradiction and becomes a conscious decision. Rewriting your economic story: how to build a new wealth narrative. If you have made it this far, you can no longer say your financial results are mere coincidence. You have seen how self-sabotage, guilt, scarcity, trauma, invisible ceilings, social myths, cultural beliefs, comparison, and family programming have shaped your relationship with money. Now the question is not what happened to you, but what you choose to do with it. Rewriting your economic story begins by accepting that your past explains your patterns, but does not determine your future. For years you acted from inherited narratives. In my family it has always been this way. I wasn't born for this. Money changes people. Those phrases became identity. And identity directs decisions. If you want different results, you need a different financial identity. Building a new narrative is not motivational fantasy, it is conscious design. It means defining what wealth means to you beyond external judgment. Perhaps it is time, freedom, stability, social impact, or security for your family. When prosperity acquires a clear purpose, it stops being empty ambition and becomes strategic direction. Then comes alignment. Your actions must support the story you choose to tell. If you decide you are someone who builds wealth, you organize your finances, invest in education, and make decisions aligned with long-term growth. Every small action confirms your new identity. It's not about erasing your past, but integrating it as learning. Experiences that once limited you can become strength. And when you assume the role of author rather than victim, something shifts deeply. Money stops being an enemy, a taboo, or a threat. It becomes a tool. And your story, finally, begins to be written from expansion rather than fear. If this content resonated with you and made you question your relationship with money, then this was not just a video, it was the beginning of a reprogramming. In Deep Mind Protocol, we don't just talk about finances, we talk about identity, invisible patterns, and how to redesign your mind so your results change at the root. Subscribe now, turn on notifications, and let me know in the comments which of these beliefs you discovered has been limiting your growth. Your transformation begins when you decide to observe yourself without filters and act with awareness. See you in the next episode, where we will continue unlocking the true power that already exists within you.